HFY Vanguard, where one touch awakened Boz and one human rewrote desire itself. The galaxy will remember, because the legend begins now. The storm began inside the ship before it began outside. Every alarm on the Valkyrie screamed at once, each a red-eyed demon shrieking over the roar of failing engines. The hull vibrated so violently that Jake Marlowe could feel the bones in his arms hum through the flight harness. The console spat sparks. The smell of ozone and burnt insulation filled the cockpit like a death omen. "Come on, you bastard," Jake growled, gripping the manual thrusters. His voice was half snarl, half prayer. Sweat ran down the lines of his face and into the scarred his jaw, a souvenir from another bad day, another bad planet. Just 30 more seconds. Hold it together. The Valkyrie didn't answer except with another explosion somewhere aft. The starboard engine howled and then died. Gravity seized the ship by the throat. Through the forward viewport, the atmosphere of the unnamed world ignited in violent color. Purple storms, gold lightning clouds that looked more like molten glass than vapor. A voice cool, feminine, and mechanical cut through the chaos. Warning core containment, failure. Pilot life probability, 6%. Jake bared his teeth in a grin that was all defiance. 6%, I've flown on worse odds. He slammed both hands onto the stabilizer controls. The ship lurched briefly, leveling out, but the descent remained unstoppable. He saw the reflection of his own eyes in the cracked viewport, pale blue, sharp and alive. The eyes of a man too stubborn to die. Outside, two suns blazed through the atmosphere, one large and orange, the other smaller and blue, casting a violent twilight over the planet. Jagged mountains split the horizon, surrounded by shimmering blue lakes and forests of violet glass-leaf trees. It was breathtaking even as it rushed up to kill him. AI reroute auxiliary power to forward shields. Compliance impossible. System failure imminent. "Of course it is," he muttered. "Just another day in paradise." He pulled up hard on the stick. The Valkyrie screamed like something alive skimming across a vast lake. Water exploded in white plumes behind him. The impact knocked his teeth together. Then came the shoreline, a blur of rock and crystal vegetation, and the ship hit it at an angle that would have torn a lesser vessel apart. For several seconds, the world was nothing but grinding metal and weightless chaos. Then silence, the kind that rang in your ears. Jake hung in his harness, blinking through the haze. Blood dripped from a cut above his eyebrow, mingling with sweat. The cockpit lights flickered weakly. Every muscle in his body ached, but pain meant he was still alive. That counted for something. "Damage report," he rasped. "Hull integrity, 27%. Engine core compromised. Navigation offline. Communications array destroyed. Life support minimal. So we're basically screwed." "Affirmative." Jake snorted. "At least you're honest." He unclipped the harness and dropped to the tilted deck boots, landing with a metallic thud. His shoulder throbbed, a dislocated joint maybe, but not worth worrying about. He rummaged through the emergency compartment, a blaster, medkit, ration packs, and a portable scanner. The cargo container, miraculously, was intact. Inside were relics, ancient Theasian artifacts stolen from a museum on Proxima 3. They were supposed to buy him freedom. Now they might buy him a grave. He powered up the scanner. The display blinked, atmosphere breathable. Oxygen density 1.3 Earth norm. Temperature 26 degrees Celsius. Pathogens none detected. Jake exhaled slowly. Well, at least I won't suffocate. He looked around the broken cockpit, the melted panels, the shattered glass, the streaks of alien dust glowing faintly under the emergency lights. His reflection stared back at him from a cracked console, short blonde hair matted with sweat, square jaw, bruised stubble flecked with blood. The tribal tattoo snaking down his arm pulsed faintly in the emergency red, almost as if it were alive. He remembered unbidden another cockpit long ago, his partner screaming in the comms. The explosion, the choice he made to eject alone. He'd been running from that decision ever since. Smuggling artifacts was just another way to keep moving, to never stop long enough to feel the guilt. He reached for the emergency lever. The exit ramp groaned, then lowered with a hiss of steam. Light poured in. Not the cold light of a dying ship, but the shimmering dual sun radiance of an untouched world. He stepped down, boots crunching on crystalline soil. The air smelled sweet like cinnamon and ozone. Every breath burned clean electric alive. Two suns hung high above one, bathing the world in amber, the other in sapphire. The colors fused on his skin like living paint. "Welcome to nowhere," he muttered. "Population one idiot in a broken ship." He scanned the horizon. Strange spire-like trees rose in clusters, their translucent leaves refracting the sunlight into cascades of violet and green. Lakes shimmered like pools of liquid metal. Far in the distance, mountains glowed faintly with bioluminescent veins. And there beyond the hills, something geometric, unnatural. A pyramid, perfectly shaped, massive, gleaming, with iridescent hues that shifted as he moved. The scanner beeped frantically, picking up energy signatures unlike anything in its database. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Well, hello there." He slung his pack over one shoulder and began walking. Each step crunched over the strange crystal vegetation that shattered like brittle glass. The sound echoed in the open air, oddly musical. He climbed a ridge for a better view. The journey took almost an hour every step, testing his endurance after the crash. But when he reached the summit, the view stole the breath from his lungs. Behind him, smoke rose from the shattered Valkyrie like a dying dragon. Ahead, miles of alien beauty stretching to the horizon. Rivers that shimmered like veins of mercury forest glowing with inner light. And at the center of it all, the pyramid. It reflected the twin suns like a mirror of gods. For a moment, Jake forgot about the pirates chasing him, the stolen relics, the wrecked ship. He felt small, insignificant in the face of something ancient and vast. "What are you?" he whispered. The scanner in his hand beeped again, louder this time, picking up movement. He froze. 10 meters away, between two crystalline outcroppings, the air shimmered. For a heartbeat, he thought it was heat distortion, but then the shimmer moved. Something or someone was there. Jake drew his blaster in a smooth, practiced motion. "All right," he called out, voice steady. "If you're friendly, show yourself. If you're not, make peace with whatever gods you've got." The air rippled once more, and then she stepped out. She was tall, slender, and impossibly alien. Her skin was a soft blue that caught the sunlight and glimmered faintly as if dusted with starlight. Silver-white hair flowed down her back like liquid metal, and her eyes, huge almond-shaped, luminous, glowed with a living light that seemed to look through him, not at him. She wore a form-fitting suit of metallic fabric that clung to her curves, both protective and revealing, made of some material between silk and armor. Jake's blaster didn't waver, but his heartbeat did. "You crashed," she said, her voice melodic, accented, but unmistakably English. "Are you hurt?" Jake blinked. "You speak my language." A slow smile curved her lips. "I speak many languages, human." He stiffened. "You know what I am." "I know your kind," she replied, stepping closer. "And I know you are far from home." Her gaze drifted down his arm, pausing at the tattoo that still pulsed faintly. Something flickered in her eyes, a recognition longing, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Jake tightened his grip on the blaster. "You're not just some friendly local, are you? Your device," she said, softly pointing at his scanner, "detects what your kind would call a magnetic resonance. My people carry it naturally." "Your people," he repeated. "And they would be?" "Veliorans," she said, "children of the twin suns." She extended a slender hand toward him. "And you are Jake Marlowe, pilot of the Valkyrie." The way she said his name made his pulse quicken. "Funny," he said. "I don't remember giving you that information." "Your ship broadcast it before it died," she replied with a faint smile. "I was monitoring." Convenient, he said, though the suspicion in his tone was undercut by curiosity and something else. She tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle piece that suddenly made sense. "You should not have survived that descent. Yet here you are. Perhaps the planet has plans for you." Jake holstered his blaster slowly. "Yeah. Well, unless those plans come with an escape route, I'm not interested." Her smile deepened, mysterious. She turned, looking toward the distant pyramid. "There are other kinds of escape, Jake Marlowe. Sometimes we fall so the right door will open." He followed her gaze. The pyramid shimmered, catching the blue sun in its facets. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw a pulse of light ripple across his surface like it had hurt her. He frowned. Did that thing just— Yes, she said simply. It responded. To what? To you. The wind shifted, carrying her scent like cinnamon in electric storms. She met his eyes again, and in them, he saw not malice, but purpose. Come, she said. If you touch it, the truth will awaken, and maybe so will you. Jake glanced once at his broken ship, then at the pyramid that gleamed like a promise. The choice felt less like decision and more like gravity. He holstered his blaster, picked up his pack, and followed her down the ridge. The suns hung above them, twin eyes watching. And far ahead, the pyramid waited ancient, silent, alive. I fell through fire and smoke, Jake thought, but maybe I didn't crash at all. Maybe I landed exactly where I was meant to. They moved through the wilderness in silence, an uneasy alliance born of curiosity and circumstance. The alien woman, Erin, as she later introduced herself, walked ahead with the effortless grace of someone born to this terrain. The blue sunlight glimmered against her skin like reflections off a tranquil sea, while the orange sun painted her hair in shades of fire. Jake followed a few paces behind, boots crunching through the crystalline grass that shattered like sugar underfoot. His instincts screamed at him to keep his distance, but his eyes refused to obey. Erin didn't walk like someone merely guiding him. She glided, each movement purposeful, deliberate, almost ritualistic. Her presence seemed to draw the light itself, making everything around her shimmer faintly. Beautiful, Jake muttered, then immediately scowled at himself. Without looking back, she said, You humans always describe what you do not understand as beautiful. He blinked. You read minds now, only the ones that speak too loudly. Jake chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. You've got jokes. Good to know I didn't crash into another species of humorless zealots. That earned him the faintest smirk. We had humor once, before the scourge. The word lingered between them like a shadow. The what? Erin didn't answer. She only kept walking, her eyes on the pyramid, now growing larger with each step. They crested another rise, and the landscape opened into a wide valley of blue grass swaying under a magnetic wind. At the far end, the Temple of Ascension dominated everything, its smooth metallic surface glinting with iridescent hues, ancient and impossibly intact. Jake stopped for a moment, shading his eyes. The pyramid wasn't stone. It looked more like engineered alloy, something between metal and crystal. Its angles were too perfect, its surface too clean. Despite the millennia that must have passed, it exuded power, purpose. Your people built that, Jake asked. Erin hesitated, then shook her head. No, the Forerunners did. My ancestors worshipped it long after they vanished. We have spent thousands of years trying to open it. Jake's scanner beeped softly, picking up more energy spikes. And you think I can— The outer markings lit up when your ship entered orbit, she said quietly. They have been dark for over 50 centuries. He frowned. So you think that thing called me? Perhaps it recognized you, she said, her tone soft but certain. Perhaps it waited. Jake laughed, though it came out more nervous than he intended. Lady, no one waits for me, especially not ancient alien tech. Erin turned then, and for the first time her gaze softened. You're wrong. The words hung there strange and intimate, like a confession she didn't mean to make. Jake cleared his throat. All right then, suppose I play along. You're saying I've got what the magic touch. Not magic, she replied. Resonance. The temple responds to a very specific genetic frequency. Yours. Jake ran a hand through his hair, laughing again, but there was no humor in it this time. I don't even know who my father was, let alone my genetics. So unless he was a cosmic demigod, I think you've got the wrong guy. Her eyes glowed faintly brighter, reflecting both suns. Or the right one. They walked on in silence, the air between them thick with something unspoken, part tension, part wonder. At the pyramid's base, the scale of it became overwhelming. Each side stretched for hundreds of meters, rising into the lavender sky. Symbols were etched across its surface, sprawling sigils that seemed to shift when looked at directly as if alive. Jake reached out, fingers hovering an inch from the cool metal. The scanner chirped violently, displaying a surge of unknown energy. Erin's voice softened. Careful, the outer fields can react unpredictably. He smirked. You could have said that before I touched it. Would you have listened? Not a chance. He pressed his palm to the surface. A pulse of blue light rippled outward, spreading across the face of the pyramid. The ground trembled beneath them. Aaron gasped, "By the suns!" The symbols began to glow one by one like constellations awakening. The air around them vibrated with a low hum, a sound that wasn't quite mechanical yet not organic either, a resonance that seemed to echo through the bones. Jake pulled his hand back, staring at his palm. The skin shimmered faintly, veins glowing with traces of the same light. "What the hell?" "It recognized you," Aaron whispered, awe and fear intermingling in her voice. "You are of the Forerunner bloodline." He shook his head. "That's impossible." "Nothing is impossible," she replied, stepping closer. Her fingers brushed his wrist, gentle, exploratory, but the touch sent another electric jolt through him. Jake flinched, though not from pain. "Your skin's hot," he muttered. "Yours is cold," she countered softly. "Perhaps together we balance." The words shouldn't have felt seductive, but they did. The heat radiating from her hands seeped into his, a current of strange energy running up his arm. For a brief, dizzying second, he felt as if the world around them slowed, the twin suns dimming the hum of the temple, deepening to match their heartbeats. He pulled away, breaking the spell. "All right, so I'm your ancient key card. What now?" "Now," Aaron said, regaining her composure, "we go inside." Jake eyed the massive sealed doorway before them, etched with spiraling runes. "Yeah, I don't see a door handle." She gestured to a small, recessed panel beside the entrance, its symbols now glowing in the same pattern that had flared beneath his touch. "Place your hand there again." He hesitated. "And if it vaporizes me, then it was never meant to be." Jake smirked. "You've got away with reassurance, you know that." Still, he stepped forward. As his hand hovered above the panel, the runes brightened, rearranging themselves into what looked suspiciously like Sanskrit. His heart skipped a beat. "That's human," he whispered. "Ancient Earth language." Aaron's expression turned reverent. "Then it is true, the Forerunners were your ancestors. Or maybe your gods stole our homework," Jake muttered. But his voice lacked a conviction now. Deep down, something in him, some instinct older than logic, recognized the symbols too. He pressed his palm to the panel. Light erupted, blinding and beautiful. The pyramid shuddered, a deep mechanical heartbeat echoing from within. Slowly, the enormous doorway split down the middle, revealing a corridor filled with soft, blue luminescence. Aaron turned to him, eyes wide, breath trembling. "You opened it." Jake exhaled. "Guess I've still got the magic touch after all." Aaron's lips parted as if to respond, but she only smiled instead, a slow, knowing smile that made his pulse quicken again. "Inside," she said, "before your pirate friends arrive." He stiffened. "You can track them." "The temple can." Jake cursed under his breath. "How far out?" "Minutes," she replied, "maybe less." "Then move." They slipped into the pyramid as the door began to close behind them. The hum of the outer world dimmed, replaced by the soft thrum of ancient machinery awakening after eons of silence. The corridor stretched endlessly, lined with flowing lines of light that curved and pulsed like veins beneath translucent walls. It felt less like walking into a building and more like stepping inside a living organism. Jake slowed his pace, awestruck. "It's like the whole damn thing's alive." "It is," Aaron said softly. "The Forerunners built their temples to breathe, to think, to dream." "Dream," she nodded. "They believed knowledge itself could live." He glanced at her. "You talk about them like you knew them." "In a way, we all did," she said. "They shaped us, and then they vanished, leaving us with questions and ruins." Jake ran his fingers along a glowing wall. The light responded to his touch, brightening. "Maybe they didn't vanish. Maybe they just left a breadcrumb trail." "Leading where?" He smirked. "To me, apparently." For the first time, she laughed, soft, musical, genuine. The sound filled the corridor like a melody. Jake found himself smiling despite everything. "You should do that more often." "What?" "Laugh. It looks good on you." Erin tilted her head, studying him as though he were the mystery. "You are strange human." "Yeah," he said, brushing dust from his sleeve. "I get that a lot." They reached a massive chamber at the corridor's end. The walls arched into a dome that shimmered like the inside of a star. Patterns of alien script interlaced with Sanskrit swirling around a raised platform at the center. Jake's scanner beeped frantically again. "There's enough energy here to power a fleet." Erin's eyes glowed brighter. "Or to destroy one." Jake turned toward her. "You said this was the Temple of Ascension. What exactly does it ascend? Her gaze lingered on him before she replied. Souls, worlds, maybe even time itself. He arched a brow. You say that like you've seen it happen. She smiled faintly. Not yet. The hum of the pyramid deepened, resonating through the floor through their bones. Jake felt it inside his chest, like a second heartbeat syncing with his own. Erin stepped closer, her face inches from his. Do you feel it, Jake Marlowe? She whispered. The pulse beneath everything. It recognizes you. Jake swallowed. Feels like it's about to swallow me whole. Then don't resist, she murmured. Let it remember you. And as her hand brushed his chest, the lights around them flared, bathing the chamber in radiant blue fire. Whatever game she was playing, Jake thought I was already losing, and I didn't mind. The air inside the temple felt alive. Every breath Jake took hummed faintly, as though the oxygen itself carried some hidden frequency. The deeper they went, the more his nerves prickled, not from fear, but from an uncanny awareness that the structure around him was listening. Erin walked beside him, now no longer leading, but moving in step, her silver-white hair flowing behind her like comet trails. The light from the walls glowed in rhythm, with their movements responding almost emotionally brighter, when they spoke dimmer, when they fell silent. Feels like we're inside a giant heart, Jake murmured. Erin smiled faintly. Perhaps we are. The Temple of Ascension was said to mirror living beings, breathing, sensing, adapting. To walk inside it is to walk within thought itself, he snorted. Then I hope its thoughts are friendly. Friendship, she said softly, is a human word. The Forerunners preferred harmony. They passed through a series of archways carved with glowing sigils that rearranged themselves as they walked by. Some symbols were alien, others unmistakably human. Sanskrit, Hebrew, cuneiform languages separated by eons, yet fused together as if by design. Jake reached out to trace one inscription. It shimmered beneath his fingertips, rearranging into a phrase he could suddenly read. The seed of man shall remember the song of creation. He froze. Erin, this is English. It's translating itself. Not translating, she corrected, recognizing. He turned to her. You keep saying that word, recognize. What does that even mean in your language? Erin looked at him for a long moment before answering. In Velioran, it means more than memory. It means returning to what was always yours. Jake felt a chill crawl up his spine. He looked at the script again, now shifting, glowing, forming new words only he could see. Welcome back. He stepped back instinctively. Okay, that's new. Erin watched him, her expression unreadable, but her eyes gleaming with awe. It knows you. Yeah, well, I don't know it, he muttered. Another pulse rippled through the walls, a deep, resonant vibration that shook the floor. Dust drifted from above, and somewhere far below, machinery the size of mountains began to wake. What's happening? The temple senses your presence, Erin whispered, voice trembling between fear and reverence. It's been dormant for thousands of cycles. You're reactivating it. Reactivating, Jake repeated, incredulous. Lady, I'm just trying not to blow the place up. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. He could feel something stirring inside him, a strange synchronicity between his heartbeat and the hum around them. His pulse wasn't just matching the rhythm, it was leading it. They reached a vast atrium so large that Jake had to crane his neck to see the ceiling. Above them hung a dome of transparent crystal, showing the twin suns beyond their light refracted through the walls in rivers of gold and blue. At the center of the floor was a massive circular platform engraved with concentric rings of symbols. A raised console stood in the middle, sleek, ancient, and waiting. Jake stepped, closer, scanner in hand. The readings were absurd, energy levels so high the device could barely quantify them. This thing could power a fleet, he muttered. Or destroy one, Erin replied softly. He glanced at her. That's supposed to reassure me. She smiled faintly. The Forerunners built their miracles on the edge between creation and annihilation. Balance was their only constant. Sounds like my love life, Jake muttered. Her laughter, rare and melodic, echoed through the chamber. It was the kind of sound that made the walls themselves seem to lean in to listen. He looked back at the console. The surface was smooth black and faintly reflective, but as he approached it, rippled like liquid metal, and symbols emerged in glowing relief. Some he recognized from the exterior panels, others new and shifting. Without thinking, he reached out. Aaron gasped. Jake waited. Too late, his palm touched the surface. The reaction was instantaneous. The rings on the floor lit up one after another in cascading waves of blue and gold. The ceiling flared with constellations, stars, and galaxies swirling in living motion. A low, harmonic chord resonated through the air, deep enough to rattle his bones. Jake staggered but didn't pull away. His veins glowed faintly through his skin, his vision flooded with data shapes, words, images. He saw flashes of worlds orbiting twin suns, cities carved into floating mountains, beings of light manipulating the fabric of reality. Then he saw Earth ancient, young wild, and humans gazing up at stars that once gazed back. The connection severed as suddenly as it began. Jake collapsed to one knee, gasping. Jake Aaron was beside him in an instant, supporting him with surprising strength. What did you see? Everything, he whispered hoarsely. Or nothing? Hell if I know. He looked at her, eyes wild. But I think they came from Earth, or maybe we came from them. Aaron's expression was unreadable wonder and sorrow mingled. The Forerunners seeded many worlds. Perhaps yours was their last. The air around them vibrated again, sharper now. A distant rumble echoed from the temple's outer walls, the sound of ships breaking through the atmosphere. Jake's scanner beeped in alarm. Crixian's signatures inbound. 405 ships. Her face hardened. They followed you. They always do. He stood checking his blaster. Can this place shield us? Yes, if we reach the inner sanctum, she said quickly. The heart chamber. It lies beyond that wall. She pointed toward the far end of the atrium where a massive door stood, sealed with swirling lines of energy. Jake ran to it, examining the markings. No handles, no seams. How do we open it? The legends say, Aaron replied, only the touch of a forerunner can awaken the inner heart. Jake glanced back at her. You really think I'm one of them? She met his eyes. I know you are. Another explosion boomed outside, distant, but drawing nearer. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Jake cursed. All right, let's see if this ancestry thing pays off. He pressed his palm to the door. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the panel beneath his hand flared with light. Lines of blue energy raced outward like veins of lightning spreading across the entire wall. The runes twisted, realigned, and pulsed in time with his heartbeat. The temple itself seemed to inhale. Then with a deep, resonant crack, the massive doors split down the middle. A gust of cool air swept through, carrying the faint scent of ozone and age. Beyond lay a corridor glowing with liquid blue light. Jake grinned, adrenaline replacing exhaustion. Well, would you look at that? Aaron's eyes were wide, shining like molten silver. You've done what none of my people could in millennia. He shrugged. Beginner's luck. But before they could enter, his scanner shrieked again. He checked the display. The Crixian ships had landed. 40, maybe 50 troops on the ground, heavily armed, closing fast. Shit, Jake muttered. They'll be here in minutes. Then we must go now, Aaron urged. He nodded, glancing back once at the glowing entrance before stepping into the corridor. The doors closed behind them with a low final rumble, sealing the outer world away. Inside, the light intensified. The walls were lined with translucent conduits through which rivers of luminous liquid flowed spiraling upward like veins of a god. Jake slowed as they walked, unable to tear his gaze away. It's beautiful, he said softly. Aaron's voice was reverent. It's sacred. The Forerunners called it the pathway of memory, a passage between the flesh and the infinite. He smirked faintly. You've got a poetic streak for a scientist. I'm not a scientist, she replied. I'm a keeper. He looked at her. Of what? History, faith, and now, she glanced at him, eyes luminous. You. The words landed heavier than either expected. Before Jake could respond, the corridor opened into a grand chamber. The ceiling arched high above them, covered in moving patterns of stars and galaxies. At its center stood a platform surrounded by levitating shards of crystal, each pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Jake's scanner flickered, overwhelmed by the readings. Whatever this is, it's not tech as we know it. It's both tech and life, Aaron said. The Forerunners didn't separate the two. She stepped forward, reaching out to one of the floating shards. It responded to her touch, glowing brighter. This is where our ancestors first communed with the stars. Jake joined her, studying the console that rose before them. The symbols danced faster now, as though anticipating him. I think it's waiting for me, he murmured. Then don't keep it waiting. He placed his hand on the surface. The chamber erupted with light. Stars bloomed overhead, swirling into a vast holographic cosmos. Voices whispered from every direction, not in words but in feelings all creation purpose. He saw visions again, the forerunners descending onto Veliora, teaching building, merging their essence with matter itself. And then their downfall, the scourge, a plague that devoured worlds. Erin trembled beside him, tears glinting on her cheeks. We thought it was just legend, she whispered. But it's all true. Jake's hand trembled on the console. They built this to survive, to pass something on. Their legacy, she said. He turned to her, voice low, and I think they left it for us to finish. The light around them pulsed in agreement, and for a moment, just a moment, Jake felt infinite. The temple hummed in harmony with his heartbeat, with hers, with the pulse of the world outside. He met Erin's gaze, breathless. It's awake. She smiled through her tears. No, Jake Marlowe, you are. And as the chamber's glow enveloped them both, the first tremor of destiny rippled outward, a signal that would echo across the stars. The silence after awakening was almost unbearable. The vast chamber still pulsed with blue light, but it was quieter now, as if the temple had exhaled after a long sleep. Dust hung suspended in the air like glittering mist, refracting the radiance that flowed from the walls. Jake stood in the center of it all, breathing hard, his hands still resting on the console that had changed everything. Energy lingered under his skin, humming like static, or even electric. It wasn't painful, it was intoxicating. He could feel it moving through his veins like his blood had turned to light. Erin stood across from him, her eyes luminous with awe and something softer, fear maybe, or reverence. The glow from the temple painted her skin in waves of gold and azure. She looked like a living constellation, equal parts divine and human. What did you do to me? Jake whispered. It's not what I did, Erin said quietly, stepping closer. It's what the temple did to us. He frowned. Us. Her voice trembled slightly as she explained. When you touched the core, it recognized your signature, but not just yours. Mine was near you, merged in the field. The temple linked us. Your energy, mine, it connected them. Jake's pulse quickened. So what's synced? Bound, she corrected. Temporarily, perhaps, unless... Unless what? She hesitated. Unless the bond completes itself. The way she said it made his throat go dry. Define completes. Erin took another step forward, close enough now that he could see the fine luminescent patterns shifting beneath her skin. Bioluminescent filigree, glowing faintly at her temples along her collarbone. In my culture, she said softly, when two life energies align, they must either separate or merge completely. The bond cannot remain incomplete for long. It consumes both until balance is found. Jake exhaled, his voice rough. And how exactly do we merge completely? Erin's gaze flicked down for the briefest moment before rising again, steady now, unflinching. Through the ritual of union. Jake blinked. You mean? Yes, she said simply, her voice like velvet wrapped around lightning. For a long moment, neither moved. The hum of the temple filled the space between them, slow, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Jake could feel it in his chest, syncing with his pulse with hers. Every breath seemed to pull them closer. Erin's composure wavered. It's not just physical, she whispered, as though confessing a secret to the air itself. It's spiritual, mental, emotional, a joining of everything that makes us whole. He managed a grin, though his heart was hammering. So basically, the universe's most complicated first kiss. She laughed softly, and it was the most human sound he'd ever heard from her. Perhaps. The air changed thicker, now warmer. The temple responded, dimming the external light until the entire chamber glowed in a soft liquid blue. The floor beneath them rippled like glass touched by wind. Jake stepped forward until they were face to face. The heat from her body brushed his chest. The faint scent of her, like cinnamon and rain on metal, filled his lungs. I'm not sure I'm qualified for a ritual of this scale, he said quietly. Qualification, Aaron murmured, is not required, only willingness. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. Well, you've got that. Her hands rose trembling slightly as they touched his chest, fingers tracing the lines of his tattoo. The markings glowed brighter beneath her touch, pulsing in rhythm with the temple's heartbeat. Jake's breath caught. It's reacting again. No, she whispered. You are. She looked up at him, then eyes shimmering with a mix of desire and fear. The temple mirrors emotion. What you feel, it feels. Then I hope it's ready for this. Their lips met. The kiss began gentle, curious, cautious, but quickly deepened, igniting with the same energy that surged through the temple's core. Blue light flared around them, wrapping their bodies in a halo of living fire. Erin gasped softly against him, her hands gripping his shoulders as if to anchor herself. Jake's arms tightened around her waist, pulling her closer. Their skin shimmered where it touched lines of light racing across them like circuitry fusing into one pattern. The ground beneath them trembled, the air vibrated. Every wall, every panel, every conduit of the temple lit up in response, as though the ancient structure had waited millennia for this moment. Jake felt himself dissolving not in a terrifying way, but in liberation. His senses expanded. He could feel her heartbeat as if it were his own, her thoughts brushing his mind like whispers, fragments of emotion, memories of a world long lost, the sound of oceans that no longer existed. He could sense her awe, her fear, her yearning, and beneath it all, her loneliness. It mirrored his own. Their connection deepened. The temple sang. When they broke apart breathless, the world itself seemed to breathe with them. The light slowly dimmed, leaving trails of fading energy that coiled through the air like ghosts. Jake rested his forehead against hers. That was definitely not in the flight manual. Erin smiled, her lips still trembling. It was in the stars. They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in silence, the echo of what had passed still humming in their veins. Finally, Jake spoke. So, are we bonded now? Yes, she said softly, completely. He tilted his head. How can you tell? She took his hand and placed it against her chest. Because I can feel your heartbeat inside mine. The admission hit him harder than any weapon could. It wasn't metaphor, it was literal. He could feel it too, a steady rhythm inside her that matched his perfectly. Before he could respond, the temple's hum deepened again. The walls shifted, realigning like gears in some divine machine. What now? Jake asked. Erin's expression changed, wonder giving way to realization. The bond has granted access to the heart. The what? The heart of Valora, she said. The living core of this world. The source of all energy, creation, destruction, rebirth. Jake rubbed the back of his neck. And I suppose it's behind another one of those glowing doors. Erin nodded. Yes. And now only we can open it. The walls around them rippled, revealing a new passageway. Light streamed through it like a waterfall of stars. They walked hand in hand, not out of necessity, but instinct. The corridor pulsed gently with each of their steps, responding to their synchronized energy. Jake felt lighter, faster, sharper. The bond had done something to him, enhanced his perception. He could see deeper shades of color, hear the faint hum of power beneath the metal of incense, Erin's emotions as gentle waves at the edge of his mind. You okay? He asked, glancing at her. She smiled faintly. Better than okay. I feel whole. Yeah, he said quietly. Me too. The corridor opened into a vertical chamber that seemed to descend endlessly into blue mist. Suspended in the center was a sphere of pure light, rotating slowly, its core pulsing like a heartbeat. The heart of Valora. Erin's voice dropped to a whisper. This is what my people have searched for since the Great Dispersion. The source of our life sealed beyond reach. Jake stared in awe. The scanner in his hand vibrated violently, readings spiking off the charts. That thing's alive. It is, Erin said. It's part machine, part soul. The Forerunners created it to preserve their knowledge and perhaps their essence. Jake stepped closer, mesmerized. The heart responded, its glow brightening as if sensing him. It recognizes you again, she said. The same resonance as before. Yeah, well, this time it's a little more intense. He reached out a tentative hand. The sphere pulsed faster. Jake, wait, Erin warned. The heart reacts to intention. If you touch it with chaos, it can destroy you. He looked back at her, then at the sphere again. What if I touch it with hope? Her expression softened. Then maybe it will save us all. He smiled faintly. Guess we'll find out. But before he could step forward, the temple shuddered violently. Alarms echoed through the walls, deep, thunderous vibrations. Erin's eyes widened. They're breaching the outer perimeter. The pirates, yes, they've brought mining lasers. They'll reach the inner shell within minutes. Jake looked up at the glowing heart. Then I guess we're out of time. Aaron grabbed his hand. No, Jake, you can't activate it alone. It will consume you. He met her gaze, the bond between them pulsing stronger than ever. Then we do it together. For a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she nodded. Together. They stepped toward the heart. The light enveloped them both. The last thing Jake saw before everything dissolved into radiance was Aaron's face, calm, determined, and impossibly beautiful as the universe itself began to bend around them. If this is how I go out, he thought, then at least I'm not going alone. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. No sound, no light, no sense of self. Then everything hit at once. Jake was no longer standing in the temple, he was inside the heart. Light and thought blurred together until he couldn't tell where his body ended and the world began. It was as if every atom in his body had become data, information, energy, pure, alive, infinite. He felt Aaron there too, not beside him, but within him, her presence twined with his in perfect resonance. Thoughts no longer needed words. Their consciousnesses flowed together like two streams merging into one great current. Jake. Her voice wasn't a sound, but a sensation, a soft pulse through the light. I'm here, he answered instinctively. What? What is this place? The heart's inner realm, Aaron replied. It's showing us its purpose. Images exploded around them, visions that transcended time. He saw the forerunners as beings of radiant energy, shaping galaxies with hands of light. They were architects of life, teachers of civilizations, weavers of balance. They seeded worlds with potential, Earth among them, each planet a note in a cosmic symphony. Then came the scourge, a wave of darkness that consumed entire star systems. Not evil, just hunger, endless and blind. The forerunners fought and died trying to contain it, pouring their knowledge into the heart's living machines that could manipulate the building blocks of existence. Each heart needed a guardian, someone to merge with, it guide it, protect it, someone whose soul could harmonize with its code. They were human, Jake realized. The first guardians were human. Yes, Aaron whispered. And when they vanished from the stars, their bloodlines survived, scattered across worlds waiting to awaken again. He saw flashes of himself, his reckless life as a smuggler, the endless running, the unspoken ache of never belonging. Maybe it hadn't been random. Maybe every risk, every near-death escape had been leading here. You were chosen long before you were born, Aaron's voice said gently. The heart has waited for your kind to return. The vision shattered like glass. They were back standing before the glowing sphere, but now it wasn't separate from them. Threads of golden light connected their bodies to it, pulsing in rhythm with their merged heartbeat. The heart had accepted them. Jake exhaled shakily. So what now? Now Aaron said we defend it. An explosion echoed through the temple, deep, metallic, and close. The entire structure trembled. The Creeksians had breached the outer barrier. Jake's instincts kicked in. He sprinted to the nearest console, his movements fluid and sure as if the heart itself was guiding his hands. Data streams unfolded across the interface, alien glyphs rearranging into English. Multiple ships on the surface, he read aloud. Heavy equipment, energy signatures off the charts. They're deploying mining lasers, Aaron said grimly. They'll cut through the pyramid's hull. Jake gritted his teeth. Not today. He reached out mentally and the temple responded. Systems came online one after another, ancient weapon arrays awakening with a sound like God's drawing breath. The holographic map flared to life, showing the Creeksian ships as red sparks moving around the pyramid. Perimeter shields online, he said, and as he spoke, invisible barriers snapped into place around the temple, shimmering faintly like heat haze. Sentinel drones activated. Aaron added, her hands glowing as she joined him. The heart pulsed in agreement, sending waves of power through their bond. Outside panels along the pyramid's surface opened with mechanical precision. Dozens of metallic spheres rose from the hidden alcoves, sleek, elegant, deadly. They streaked into the sky, leaving trails of blue fire. The Creeksian forces opened fire plasma bolts and rail slugs hammering against the shields. The ground quaked, but the barriers held. Through their link with the heart, Jake could feel everything, the temperature of the atmosphere, the angle of each shot, the heat signatures of the enemy troops. It was like having an entire battlefield wired directly into his nervous system. Jake Asherin called. They're targeting the western sector. Got it. He reached out with one hand, focusing his intent through the heart. A cascade of holographic symbols flared to life. The Sentinel drones shifted formation, diving toward the attackers. Precision beams of light erupted from their cores, striking the pirates' heavy cannons with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield. Warning shots, Jake said through clenched teeth. I don't want a massacre. Mercy Aaron said softly, admiration in her tone. Very human. Yeah, well, humans don't start wars we can't finish. Another blast rocked the temple. The main Crixian cruiser had landed its forward cannon, charging for a full assault. The blast that followed was blinding. A beam of raw energy, several meters wide, slammed into the pyramid's apex. Inside, alarms flared red. Energy readings spiked dangerously high. Aaron turned to him. The shields won't hold another hit like that. Jake's jaw tightened. Then we hit back harder. He placed both hands on the console. Instantly, light enveloped him, streams of data surging from the heart through his body. He could see every system, every weapon, every inch of the structure, as if it were an extension of his own form. He could also feel Erin, her presence merging with his, her energy fueling the connection. Together, they were more than human or alien. They were the temple itself. Ready, he asked, his voice reverberating with power. Always, she replied. They spoke as one. Engage primary defense sequence. Outside, the pyramid roared to life. Panels rotated. Energy conduits aligned. At its apex, the heart's energy concentrated into a single point, a golden sphere brighter than the twin suns. The Christian flagship fired again, its beams slicing through the air, but the temple's response was faster. A pulse of golden light erupted outward, a shock wave of pure energy that expanded in all directions. Ships, weapons, and machines were engulfed, not destroyed, but disarmed. Engines died mid-roar, guns froze, systems went dark. The battlefield fell silent. Every pirate vessel hovered motionless, caught in the sphere of golden light, like flies in amber. Jake exhaled, sweat beading on his forehead. That should hold them for a while. Aaron's hand found his. You did it. No, he corrected, squeezing, gently. We did it. For a moment, they just stood there, bathed in the quiet hum of victory. Then a new signal flashed across the console. Unfamiliar ships were entering Valora's orbit, dozens of them, sleek and crystalline. Aaron's eyes widened in recognition. They're ours, she whispered. The Velioran fleet. My people. They heard the temple's awakening. Jake grinned. Looks like the cavalry finally showed up. The heart pulsed in approval, broadcasting a signal that reached far beyond the atmosphere, a message of rebirth and warning echoing across the stars. But the silence didn't last. Jake Aaron said suddenly, her expression darkening. The heart's energy output, it's rising beyond sustainable limits. He checked the readings. The numbers were climbing exponentially. It's overloading. The bond between us, she realized. Our link is feeding it too much power. Can we stabilize it? Maybe if we synchronize completely. He looked at her, understanding immediately what that meant. A full merge. She nodded. Mind and spirit, one consciousness. He hesitated only a second. Let's do it. They turned toward the heart. Its surface rippled with light waiting. Together they stepped forward and reached out. The moment their hands touched the energy, it surged through them like wildfire, a storm of sensation and thought. Every boundary between them dissolved. He saw her childhood memories, crystalline oceans, floating cities, the laughter of her people before the scourge. She saw his rust-colored deserts, broken ships, bar fights in dusty colonies, the loneliness of space. They were each other. And in that unity, the heart obeyed. Energy stabilized, the overload fading into a steady rhythm that pulsed with the combined cadence of their souls. Through the connection, Jake felt something new, deeper than power. Purpose. The heart was not just a weapon, it was a seed designed to heal, not to destroy. It could rebuild ecosystems, restore life, terraform worlds. We can use it, he breathed, not just to defend Valora, to restore it. Aaron's eyes shone with tears. You mean bring our world back? Yes, he said, smiling. Let's finish what your ancestors started. They placed their joined hands against the console. The heart responded instantly. A surge of golden light burst outward, racing through every corridor of the temple, then up through the pyramid's apex and into the sky. Outside, the light expanded across the horizon, a wave of restoration. Barren soil shimmered, turning lush. Crystals bloomed into forests of glowing trees. The twin suns' harsh glare softened to a warm gold. Valora was waking. From orbit, the Velioran fleet witnessed it in awe. Commanders sent word across their channels, the heart lives again. Jake and Aaron stood at the pyramid's summit, their bond glowing like molten gold. The Crixian ships, powerless, drifted aimlessly. But one vessel larger, darker, still moved. Aaron stiffened. Dravik Morton, she said, the pirate warlord himself. He's activating a manual override. Jake's scanner flashed. He's trying to detonate his ship, take the whole area with him. Without hesitation, Jake extended his hand. Through the heart, he reached out, feeling the energy around Morton's vessel. He could sense the reactor's core, unstable and pulsing red. Aaron joined him. Together they focused. The heart's power coalesced into a single beam of light that pierced the sky, enveloping the pirate flagship. Its destructive energy disintegrated harmlessly, converted into a burst of harmless plasma. The ship went dark. Jake grinned. Guess he's not making headlines today. Aaron smiled, though her eyes were soft with something deeper. You could have destroyed him. Maybe, but the galaxy's already got enough death. She regarded him for a long moment, then whispered, You truly are of the Forerunner blood. The words hung between them, glowing with meaning neither dared to break. Outside, the fleets gathered, the Veliorans, cheering as their homeworld blossomed again. Jake and Aaron watched in silence, hand in hand, as the first rivers began to flow anew. The war was over. But what came next, that was destiny. Jake looked at her, smiling softly. So what now, Guardian? Aaron's lips curved. Now we rebuild. You, me, and whoever dares to believe that two worlds can become one. He chuckled. That sounds like one hell of a start. And as the heart of Valora pulsed one final time, sending a wave of golden light into the heavens, the stars themselves seemed to bend, acknowledging the union of two souls who had changed the fate of galaxies. The twin suns rose over Valora for the first time in millennia, not harsh and burning, but warm and alive. Their light danced across newly reborn rivers, through forests of crystal leaf trees that shimmered like stained glass. The planet that had once been a ruin now breathed again, singing with the pulse of the heart. From the pyramid's apex, Jake Marlowe watched the horizon blaze with color. The air was clear, sweet, and alive with sound. Playing birds returning, wind weaving through canyons where silence had ruled for centuries. He exhaled slowly. You weren't kidding, he murmured. Your world's beautiful. Aaron stood beside him, her silver-white hair glowing faintly in the golden light. The wind caught it, turning her into a living banner of light and grace. It wasn't always, she said softly, but beauty is born from struggle. My ancestors forgot that. Jake smiled. Mine never learned it. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the light ripple over the valley below. Thousands of Veliorans had already gathered around the base of the temple, survivors, soldiers, elders, all staring in awe at the reborn heart pulsing faintly from within the pyramid. Ships from orbit descended through the sky, sleek and crystalline, forming a halo above the temple like a ring of guardians. A new city was already taking shape. Scaffolding, rising tents turning into structures, energy conduits linking newly restored lands. Valora was alive again. But so was Jake in a way he'd never been before. He turned to Aaron. How long before the heart finishes stabilizing? 73 rotations. She replied, her tone half scientific, half reverent. After that, the ecosystem will sustain itself without guidance. And us, he asked quietly. What happens to us? She looked at him not as an alien to a human, but as a soul to its mirror. We remain bound. The heart has fused part of itself to us. Our link transcends distance now. Even across the stars, we will feel each other. Jake chuckled softly. So basically, long-distance relationship, zero lag. Aaron laughed, the sound like music under the twin suns, something like that. Down below, a commotion rose as the Velioran fleet commander Thalion approached the temple's entrance. His entourage carried banners etched with ancient runes. Jake and Aaron descended to meet them. Thalion bowed deeply, an ancient gesture of respect. Guardian Aaron, Human Marlowe, On behalf of Veliora's council and her scattered colonies, I offer our gratitude. You have restored our world. Jake shrugged, just doing a little planetary maintenance. Thelian's gaze softened. You've done more than that. You've proven the old prophecies true. The Forerunner said one day a human would awaken the heart, and that he would not come alone. He looked at Aaron. Two souls united, bridging creation itself. Jake exchanged a glance with her, both humbled and slightly embarrassed by the mythic tone. Aaron replied formally, prophecies or not, we are merely caretakers. The heart belongs to all life that endures. Thelion nodded solemnly. Then allow us to help you rebuild. He gestured, and behind him thousands of Veliorans raised their tools and banners in unison. The temple's courtyard erupted in cheers, a sound Jake would remember for the rest of his life. Aaron turned to him, her expression softening. You see, my people believe again. Jake grinned. Belief's contagious, especially when you back it up with orbital lasers. She elbowed him lightly, laughter in her eyes. Your humor is a strange weapon, Jake Marlowe. Yeah, well, he said, gazing out over the cheering crowd, it beats dying angry. Days passed like moments. Under the heart's influence, Velora transformed faster than anyone imagined. Wastelands turned into emerald plains. Ruined oceans filled again, shimmering with life. The air became breathable, even for humans, its chemical composition adjusting naturally through the heart's terraforming algorithms. Jake helped lead reconstruction efforts, part engineer, part explorer, part accidental messiah. He taught Velioran crews how to use human tools and technologies efficiently, while Aaron introduced him to the living systems of the planet, bioreactive crystals, wind-harvested light organic data weaves that grew like vines. Together they created something new, a fusion of science and spirit. The first human envoys arrived weeks later, explorers and diplomats answering Jake's transmission. They came cautiously expecting hostility. Instead, they found open arms. The sight of humans and Veliorans working side by side spread across the galactic networks. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy witnessed cooperation instead of conquest. The heart pulsed brighter each day, resonating with the shared hope of two civilizations. One night, Jake stood alone on the temple balcony, gazing at the twin moons. The heart's hum vibrated faintly through the floor beneath his boots, a sound that had become part of him. He sensed Aaron before he heard her. Their bond made her presence feel like a second heartbeat. You're quiet tonight, she said, stepping beside him. Just thinking, he replied, about how weird it is that the galaxy keeps running on chaos, yet somehow we're standing here alive. Aaron smiled faintly. Chaos is the universe's way of making room for miracles. He turned to her. You think what happened to us was a miracle? I think, she said softly, it was inevitable. The light from the moons reflected in her eyes twin orbs of silver fire. Jake felt that familiar gravity between them. Not just attraction, but recognition. The deep pull of two beings who'd seen eternity together and lived to talk about it. Do you ever wonder, he murmured, if this was all planned? Like the Forerunners set the whole damn stage waiting for someone like us. Aaron tilted her head. Perhaps they didn't plan it. Perhaps they simply believed someone would. That's what faith is, isn't it? He smiled. I was never much for faith. Yet you believed in me. That shut him up. She stepped closer, her voice low and warm. The heart listens to emotion, Jake. When you doubt yourself, it dims. When you believe, it shines brighter. He raised an eyebrow. You mean this thing's powered by love? Not love, she said, smiling. Connection, the same thing that drives life itself. Jake nodded slowly. Then let's keep it running forever. They kissed under the light of two moons, their bond flaring gold, a pulse that rippled through the heart and out across the planet like a heartbeat of renewal. Months later, Velora was a living world again. Cities rose from crystal foundations. Humans and Veliorans coexisted in harmony. Trade routes reopened. Scientists exchanged knowledge, artists carved murals of two figures standing before a golden pyramid, the guardians of the heart. Jake hated the title. Aaron loved it. But even as peace settled, the heart never stopped calling, whispering across space, reaching for other dormant hearts scattered among the stars. One night, as Jake calibrated an energy relay, the heart pulsed with sudden intensity. A star map projected across the sky, countless glowing points, each one flickering, faintly waiting. Aaron appeared beside him, her expression solemn. The other hearts, she whispered. They're responding. Jake's eyes widen. There are more. Dozens, she said, across uncharted systems, each one dormant, waiting for a signal, waiting for us. He stared at the stars, realization dawning. The forerunners didn't die. They scattered their legacy, and we just lit the first beacon. Aaron's smile was slow, radiant, dangerous. Then our work isn't done. Jake laughed quietly. Of course not. I finally fixed one planet and the universe drops 50 more on my to-do list. She placed a hand on his chest, feeling the pulse that mirrored her own. You were never meant to stay in one place, Jake Marlowe. You were born to wander the stars, but now you'll never wander alone. He met her gaze, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a drifter or a thief. He felt like something new, a bridge between worlds, a beginning rather than an escape. All right, he said with a grin. Let's wake the rest. The day they departed, the entire planet gathered to see them off. The heart itself opened a beam of golden light that enveloped their ship, fusing it with its own living energy. The vessel rose slowly, shimmering, part machine, part organism. Jake looked down at the world beneath, rivers glittering like veins of light, cities glowing in harmony with the stars. Erin stood beside him, her hand in his eyes fixed on the horizon. Valora is safe, she said softly. Yeah, Jake replied. Now it's the galaxy's turn. The ship broke atmosphere, cutting through the lavender sky into the endless sea of stars. Behind them, the heart pulsed one last farewell, a beacon that would guide others home. Jake leaned back in his pilot's chair, glancing at Erin. So, co-guardian, where to first? She smiled, that same luminous, knowing smile that started it all. Wherever the next heart calls. He grinned, powering up the engines. Then let's answer. The stars stretched into ribbons of light as their ship jumped into the unknown, leaving behind the reborn world that would forever remember two souls who defied extinction and opened not just a door but an entire future. Two civilizations separated by light years and evolution, united by one touch. The heart of Valora pulsed across the cosmos, and humanity answered back.